Hello and welcome to part 3 of Intro to CAD Design. And I am currently going over all of the basics of Matrix 3.4, which is a three-dimensional CAD design software. I am going through the quick commands and we've gotten all the way through. I did skip over a few of them. I am going to come back to the job bag and how to open and save a project for part 4. So today we are going to do part 3 and we are going to talk about layers and the importance of layers. So without further ado, let's start. I think I briefly mentioned about layers. I'm not really sure if I went over it. I know I didn't go over it in depth at all. Layers are extremely powerful. If you've ever worked with any complicated design program like Photoshop, they have layers. It allows you to work without the viewport being so cluttered that you can't find what you really need or get to what you need to work with. And so it's just so extremely helpful. I don't even know how I would work without all these layers. So the green layers are assigned for metal. So what that means is that the dark green is what you see here. Now what that means is that there is, when I turn render on, it creates a look of metal. And the gem layers, the blue, are assigned to gems. So this is blue. So you will see the dark blue, which is the default gem color, is a diamond. And then the dark green default color is white gold. So let's change this to the second green. Okay, and let's change this one to the third green, and we'll change this one to the fourth green, and we'll leave all these other ones dark green. Okay. Knowing the default layer color is important. It does mean something when you're designing. So like if you were to try to put a profile on a curve like this one, and you see that's yellow, well, yellow is the default for profile. If you were trying to put a profile on a curve and you had yellow turned off, let's go ahead and turn off our yellow. How you turn off a color or a layer is you click on the eyeball. So let's go ahead and go up here to our little quick command and find profile placer. Here we go. That's a very long curve. All right. Okay, so I have imported the profile by using the little profile placer and attach it to that curve, and I'm going to click enter. Where'd it go? It's gone, but it's not gone. So this is why it's really, really important to understand what is the default colors for the different programs and the different modes. So all right, I'm going to click yellow back on, and there it is. It's right there hiding from us. Okay, so the dark green, like I mentioned, is the default for your metal, and then here's 3 other options. Now I am going to go ahead and right click on perspective, click on render, and This was dark green. This was the second green. This was the third green, and this is the fourth green. The last two greens are actually default and yellow gold. And these first two are white gold in the default. You can change that. It doesn't have to be that way, but that is something that we will get into in a later video. It's a little more in depth. Okay. Then we have object layers, the purple, the rust. The rust is the default. I'm hovering over the rust and it has a little pop-up that says finger. It's because it's a default color for your ring rail. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to our quick command and click on ring rail. And there it is. Came in at a 7, which is the default size. So you always have to remember to change the size to what you want when you first bring that in. You can edit it later, but it's always better to just do it right away so you don't forget. Ask me how I know. I've been there and done that. Okay, next we have orange, which is the default for your cutters. And if you hover over that, a little pop-up will tell you it's for cutting. And then what's interesting is the next one is yellow, which is their profile, and it just says creation on the little pop-up. Some of these are like old school matrix. Like the white was a light. It's probably still that way. I never use matrix render. So these next 4, which are neutrals and browns, are render. And then I'm going to go back up to the right hand side over here, and the blues are gems. We talked about that dark blue being the default blue, and the other blues, gems 2, gem 3, and gem 4, all have a default type of gem assigned to it. Okay, so I'm going to do a little practicing with our quick commands, and I'm going to select the gems, and I'm going to go over here to ungroup. Now, if you can't remember where it's at, just go slow over your little icons and click find it. It'll pop up and it'll say ungroup. There we go. Very good. It worked. Now I am going to assign the second blue and the third blue and the fourth blue to these gems. I'm going to delete some of these so that we can see. Now, a lot of times there'll be a little pop-up that says, this transform has broken history. Yes, thank you. I'm aware. But it can be a nice little reminder when you're first starting, just in case you don't want that history to be broken. But that's hardly ever the case with me. Okay. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like in the render view. So this was the dark blue. This was the second blue. It looks like opal is assigned to that. The third blue is a diamond. And the fourth, potentially a pearl or moonstone. I'm not really sure. And you can reassign those anything you want. They could all be diamonds. You know, sometimes you put things on different layers. This is something I do right here where like all of my dark blue ones are the customer stones, and or excuse me, I usually do like the dark blue stones that they need to purchase, and then I'll put it on a different color if it's a customer stone. But you can make up your own storyline there. Whatever works for you, however your brain will let you organize it. And that's the key. Organization, being detailed, being systematic. Okay, Next, let's go down to purple. So purple, if you hover over that, the word setting will pop up. And that's because if I were to do, and I'm not going to really share with you what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to put some prongs on real quick just to show you. And they pop in purple because that is the default color for settings. It also for like under bezels and bezels and rails and such. All right, let's go over here to underneath our gem colors. And these just are labeled user. We have red, green, like a bright green, bright blue, and gray. I kind of dedicate those colors to certain things, dimensions, and then like the bright green I use when I flow, and then red I use for my construction lines, and gray I use if I have an image that I bring in. So I have assigned those colors as I've worked throughout the years. I've kind of dedicated certain colors to mean certain things. And the reason that that ends up being helpful is if I'm in the middle of a design and I wonder I need to change that and edit that prong or that piping that I've made, I know that underneath there is a red curve, and I usually just have that turned off unless I need it. Okay, next underneath all of our user colors and layers are extras, and there's quite a few extras, and I also have assigned those to certain things, but you know, you get used to doing certain things, and it's all individual. So like over here, the oranges, the cutters, all of these in my mind are kind of an orangish color, so I always put extra cutters on those layers. All right, let's talk a little bit more about using the layers when you are designing. I am going to turn these into different colors. My red construction lines. There we go. I'll leave the ring rail rust. Okay, so this is not as cluttered as it can get, but you know, it's a little cluttered, and let's just say we want to work with you know, these two right here. Well, you can do a couple different things if you want to only have those two things on your viewport. One of the things you can do is you can right click on hide, and now you can see what you're doing. Maybe you need to get up close and personal and you just don't want all that clutter. I'm going to hit show. Another thing you can do is I can look at this and say, let me turn off the ring rail color. Let me turn off the red. I'm going to turn off the gems and the purple and the yellow. Okay, I only have solids left. And then you find all your other colors. Let's turn that red. Okay, so let's turn off the dark green. There's a pop-up here that says cannot hide current layer. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that I have dark green. Not only is it the default, but I actually have it selected so that anything I do and anything I create is going to come in on the dark green. How do you know that? Well, I don't know if you can see it, but this is sort of like a frosted panel over that dark green color. How do you change that? Well, it's very simple, but you wouldn't know how to do it. So let me tell you. You just click on the actual color box. So I'm going to click on bright green. And if you can see that frosted little panel, is now over the bright green, and I can turn off by clicking on that eyeball the dark green. Now if I want to change this color, let's select this ellipse, and I am going to change that to white. I wouldn't click on the white. If I click on the white, it's actually going to make that the default for what I'm doing. So let me click back on the green. If I want to change this, I have to click on the arrow in front of the white. There we go. And I could turn that off if I want to. So here we are. We got to the same spot. It took us quite a bit longer, but sometimes there are things we do in design that, you know, that particular part of the project might take 40 minutes. And you want to use the hide for other things, and then you don't want to click the show and have everything come back. So both of them are very practical. Just depends on what you're doing. I just want to thank everyone for watching part 3, and there will definitely be more videos to come. Looking forward to part 4, which I will go over the project bags, also display modes, and some of the commands at the bottom of the screen, the grid snaps, snaps, project, gumball, and record history. All right, until next time, have a great rest of your week, and you're welcome.